Alright, so I'm on the next part of the lab where it is titled muscles, and again I just wanted to point out once again the large adductor muscles, which are these two really thick circular pieces of tissue here that actually open and close the valves, which are the shells. The next thing the lab told you to do was to look at the mantle cavity, which was to lift up the mantle tissue, which of course is this thin tissue, and expose the gills underneath. Now the upper layer of mantle has already been cut off and removed from this animal. So what you're seeing is what's underneath that thin tissue that secreted the shell, and you'll see that there are two flaps of tissue here. One, two, and these two flaps of tissue that are kind of rib-like in appearance are the two gills. Okay? Now the other thing that it wants you to do is usually you would feel them. So what you would do is you would pick up the first gill and you would kind of pinch it between your fingers, and then you would feel the second gill and pinch it between your fingers. If one of the gills is thicker, then you have a female, and if they're both of equal thickness, then you have a male. Now both of these flaps are the same thickness, which means this is a male mussel. Alright, underneath the gills, okay, the next thing I want you to find is the tough muscular foot and the visceral mass. So I'm going to pull back all this tissue. And what you should now see is right here where it's kind of more yellowy in coloration is a really hardened muscle. So all this area right here, which is there's a kind of a pigment change in color, all this would be the muscular foot. And again, it feels so tough and it's so rigid simply because it's a muscle and the animal is dead and it's kind of gone through what you can consider like rigor mortis. Now back here is where all the other stuff is going to be stored of the animal, and this whole mass of tissue that is pretty much dorsal to the foot is known as the visceral mass. Now, pretty much laying anterior to the visceral mass are these two structures that you see right here. I'm going to open them, hopefully using my probe. And you can see these are two flaps of tissue that are right here on the anterior side of the animal. And these two flaps of tissue are called the labial palps. And what they do is pretty much they are attached anteriorly. Right here, they pretty much go forward, 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 and they unite pretty much right up here at the front of the animal, which is the mouth. Now, this animal is bilateral, which means if I tilt the animal, what you should see is that on the other side of the animal are two more labial palps, and you'll see that these ones are actually a little bit larger in size. So here would be two more labial palps and also two more gills. And that should make sense because the animal's bilateral, sliced anterior to posterior, and they should have mirror image of this side to this side.